Welcome back. We are with the Idaho Governor Challenger, Keith Allred. Thanks for being with us.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Well, I've been looking at the polls. They went from, in March, a span of 32 points. The latest poll shows you leading, or rather, following by just 16 points.
Right.
Why the change?
Well, I think that people in Idaho and everywhere are deeply frustrated that our government is no longer about us, about the needs of everyday citizens, but instead about political parties and special interests. And that's certainly true of the incumbent in Idaho's record. I've not been a politician. I've been a citizens advocate running a nonpartisan citizens group that's gotten significant things done for the people of Idaho. And I think people are really refreshed by that kind of an approach right now.
Idaho has statistically been pretty conservative. Are you concerned at all about being a Democrat in this race?
Well, as you noted, it's an unusual race in Idaho for the Democratic nominee to be gaining as much as we have been. We've actually also outraised Butch Otter by 25% so far this year. That's the first time in Idaho history. We also have record levels of Republican support. Times News recently said this is the most Republican-supported Democratic candidate in Idaho has seen in 40 years. And I think part of that is because I haven't been a Democrat, actually. I've been an independent that the Democratic Party approached. And it's the priorities that I talk about. And it's really simple when it comes to state government. There are two priorities that Republicans, Democrats, and independents have, and that is to keep the tax burden on Idaho families low and to provide a great education for every Idaho school kid.
And those are the things that you must be hearing about everywhere you go when you visit people.
Absolutely. Those are the two that rise above all the rest. And you know, this year we cut education by 7.5% in Idaho. That's the first time in Idaho history. Every governor in Idaho history, through good times and bad, has found a way to keep education whole because they've understood what a fundamental priority education is. Butch Otter just doesn't get it. The people of Idaho know that I'm a champion for education, and that's part of what they're responding to.
Okay, so if you wouldn't cut education, something else has to take the hit. What would it be?
Well, this year there were good options available for keeping education whole without raising taxes or cutting other programs. For example, Butch Otter has left the tax commission systematically understaffed for the entire 4 years of his administration, 29 positions unfilled. That means we've lost over $100 million. Essentially, under Butch Otter, he's let tax deadbeats steal textbooks from Idaho school kids.
It's a pretty bold statement.
That's what the record is. I mean, he systematically left positions unfilled so that people who don't play by the rules get rewarded, and those of us who do play by the rules and pay our taxes get punished for it.
We don't see a lot of visits, campaign or otherwise, up here in North Idaho, but our problems are just like the rest of the state. And some of them are a little bit different because we are up here in the Panhandle. How do you address North Idaho?
Yeah, well, Robyn, I probably beg to differ. We come up here a lot. It's just a little harder to get a Spokane television station to cover it than we get in Boise or Idaho Falls, but we've spent a lot of time in North Idaho. It does make it harder, I think, to reach voters in the Panhandle because it's a different media market, because it's so far away, but we certainly have been spending a lot of time up here.
And North Idaho concerns are very similar to the rest of the country. I mean, you know, where are our jobs? What's happening with our economy? And you know, are we worried about you raising our taxes?
Yeah, and those two priorities of a great education and a low tax burden certainly are uniform in North Idaho. Of course, there are unique North Idaho issues. You know, the municipalities in North Idaho are pretty concerned with Washington's putting a lot of the water quality issues off onto Idaho. That's a unique issue here. A little further south on Highway 12, the megaloads that Imperial Exxon wants to run up that Butch Otter blessed without having ever talked to the citizens of Idaho, only talking to the executives at ExxonMobil. And so that's an issue that I think Butch Otter is having some difficulty with in North Idaho.
And so where do you stand on the megaloads?
Well, I think that the people, the citizens of North Idaho have raised very good questions about that for which there have not been sufficient answers, and so I would not grant those permits in my administration.
What about the wolf hunt?
That was unfortunate. I think that the federal judge struck down what was a very good plan and system going forward. Idaho can and should manage its own wolf population. I'm hopeful. You know, U.S. Fish and Wildlife actually agrees with Idaho that we should manage it. It was the federal judge that didn't agree, and I'm hopeful that we're going to be able to work out a deal with U.S. Fish and Wildlife that Idaho will manage its own wolf population and will continue to provide hunts, because we can't have an unmanaged level of wolves. The wolf population has been just skyrocketing beyond what anybody anticipated, and in this day and age we can't have an uncontrolled wolf population.
All right, Mr. Allred, thank you. That's all the time we have. Sure appreciate your time.
Thank you.